Welcome to Time with Death. This video is for informational purposes and in no way meant to glorify or condone violence. In today's video, we'll be discussing the murder of Jose Macias. Macias was shot and killed on Friday, December 12, 2008, on the 101 freeway near the Mission Road exit in Boyle Heights, according to LA County coroner records. Michael Angel Aleman and Andy Medrano were subsequently arrested and charged with the murder. The following is the evidence at trial. On February 23, 2008, Victor Iriarte went to El Rodeo nightclub in Pico Rivera with his brother and two friends, including victim Jose Macias. Defendant Aleman and his friend, defendant Medrano, were also at the nightclub. Iriarte recognized defendants. A woman who briefly dated defendant Aleman told police that defendant Aleman and his friends got into a fight at El Rodeo with friends of a prominent big shot, victim Jose Macias. Iriarte was tipsy when he arrived at El Rodeo and proceeded to drink 8 or 9 glasses of liquor while there. He departed at closing time in his friend's Camaro. 3 to 5 gunshots were fired at the Camaro, one of which struck Iriarte. He was hospitalized for a grazing bullet wound to his chest, inches from his heart. Iriarte told detectives that a white SUV was driving near the driver's side of the Camaro when the shooting began. At trial, Iriarte claimed little memory about the incident and was reluctant to testify. At 2:11 a.m. on February 23, 2008, police received a call about a shooting involving a white Escalade in the city of Montebello, 1 mile from El Rodeo nightclub. Minutes later, police stopped the white Escalade at a red light. Defendant Aleman was in the driver's seat and defendant Medrano was in the passenger. A search of the Escalade uncovered a Ruger 9mm semi-automatic gun on the floorboard in the front console with a chambered live round and 3 more in the magazine. 3 spent casings from the Ruger were found on the driver's floorboard, on the front passenger seat, and on the rear floorboard. The bullets and casings were manufactured by Winchester. One of the passengers in defendant Aleman's car was Ms. Nunez. Nunez waived her Miranda rights and spoke to the police that morning. She was nervous and scared during her interview. Nunez told police that she and defendant Aleman went to El Rodeo in his white Escalade and departed with their friends at closing time, 2 a.m. Defendant Aleman drove along the street with the windows rolled down. Nunez told police that she heard 2 or 3 gunshots fired from inside the Escalade. The noise was so loud that her ears were numb. She instinctively hit on the floorboard. Immediately after, she saw defendant Aleman with a gun in his hand, placing it near the center console. Early on December 12, 2008, a witness developed transmission problems in downtown Los Angeles and was waiting in his car on Alameda for a tow truck. Around 3 a.m., he observed a silver Bentley driven by a young Latino man playing very loud music. The car went south on Alameda, made a U-turn, and stopped at a red light at the intersection of Alameda and Cesar Chavez, 3 or 4 car lengths in front of the witness. 2 Hispanic men, a tall one wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt and a short, robust one, approached the passenger side of the Bentley on foot and began shooting into it. 2 to 4 gunshots per gun in quick succession from automatic weapons. The witness saw muzzle flashes. The Bentley drove north on Alameda after the shots were fired, then made a U-turn and headed south on Alameda. Police presented the witness with a 6-pack photographic lineup in January of 2009. He selected photographs of defendant Aleman and one other person as most similar to the taller of the 2 shooters. At a preliminary hearing and at trial, the witness made an in-court identification of defendant Aleman as being similar to the taller shooter that the witness was able to see in profile firing a gun. Sabino Cabral, defendant's friend, who was in Aleman's Escalade on the night of the Iriarte shooting, had arranged to meet defendants at the church festival in the Placita Olvera. Cabral hung out and partied with defendants nearly every day in 2008 and early 2009. After picking up his friends, Cabral drove to the post office parking lot at Cesar Chavez and Alameda. There, he and his friends met up with defendants and they walked to the Placita Olvera together. Defendant Medrano told Cabral that he and the victim got into a fight during the festival, which was broken up by security guards. Around 2:30 a.m., Cabral and his friends walked back to his car. Defendants left at the same time and reached the intersection of Cesar Chavez and Alameda before Cabral and his friends. A passing Bentley caught Cabral and his friends' attention. Cabral's friends saw defendants Aleman and Medrano standing at the intersection with singer Roberto Tapia. The friends heard defendants exchange words or argue with the Bentley driver, who pulled away then made a U-turn. When the Bentley stopped, the friends and Cabral heard 3 to 6 gunshots fired nearby, causing them to drop to the ground and then run away. Defendants did not run. When Cabral returned to his parked car, he saw defendants and Chris Medina getting into Medrano's Dodge Ram truck. Defendant Medrano drove out of the parking lot onto Cesar Chavez, then headed south on Alameda, following the Bentley. Cabral was also in his car driving south on Alameda. As the cars entered the 101 freeway, Cabral saw muzzle flashes from the driver's side of defendant Medrano's truck aimed at the Bentley. Cabral saw the Bentley pull into the center divider. Cabral left the freeway at the Mission Road exit and then drove to his friend's house. At 3:24 a.m., the California Highway Patrol received a call about gunshots and a collision. Officers arrived within a few minutes and found a silver Bentley stopped on the southbound 101 freeway near the Mission Road exit in downtown Los Angeles, with his left wheels up against the curb at the center divider. The driver was slumped over, his head between the steering wheel and the car door. There were 3 bullet holes in the front passenger window and 15 to 20 bullet holes on the passenger side of the vehicle, some of which had a downward trajectory as it fired from a higher profile vehicle. The victim was gasping for air and blood was pouring from a bullet hole in the back of his head. There was copious amounts of blood on the door and floorboards. The injured driver, 25-year-old victim Jose Macias, had minimal brain function when he arrived at the hospital with a gunshot wound in the back of his skull. There was no chance for recovery. He died on December 14, 2008. The coroner recovered bullet fragments and a deformed copper jacket from the victim's brain. The injury was not caused by a gunshot fired from close proximity. Police found no guns or knives in the victim's car. 8 spent 9mm bullet casings stamped CCI for a 9mm Luger firearm were found on the freeway nearby, all fired by the same semi-automatic weapon. Bullets and bullet fragments consistent with the same caliber firearm were found inside the Bentley. Police found 9mm Luger bullet casings made by Winchester at the corner of Cesar Chavez and Alameda, where the witness saw 2 men shoot at the Bentley. After the shooting, Cabral had dinner with defendants and others at defendant Aleman's request. After inquiring whether Cabral had heard what happened, defendant Medrano, bragging, said that he had done the shooting. Defendant Aleman loudly told defendant Medrano to shut the fuck up. Cabral knew victim Macias as Güerito and told detectives that defendant Medrano had beef with Güerito. In fact, they all had beef with Güerito, referring to Aleman, Medrano, and Chris Medina. Cabral learned this from hanging out with them. Cabral expressed fear that he could get killed for his testimony. He initially lied to police investigators in June of 2009, falsely telling them that he was not at the Placita Olvera and knew nothing about the freeway shooting. He did not want to get involved, reasoning that it could cost him his life. The police showed Cabral photographs depicting him, Medrano, and Chris Medina together before the shooting and told him to stop lying. They also had cell phone records placing Cabral at the location of the shooting. Cabral admitted during his police interview that Mike, Andy, and Chris shot at the victim, and Medrano bragged about it. Cell phone records showed that defendant Aleman's device was activated near the Placita Olvera at 12:24 a.m. on December 12, 2008, around the same time as Cabral's device. The two communicated numerous times between 3:18 and 3:45 a.m., using cell phone towers near the Bentley crash site. Cabral cooperated with police because he wanted to avoid being charged with the victim's murder or spend the rest of his life in prison. After gleaning information about the victim's shooting from Cabral, the police conducted surveillance on defendant Aleman. He responded by staying in hotels and not at home. On June 30, 2009, while under surveillance, Aleman went to a Best Western hotel. Half an hour later, he departed from the hotel and drove south on Interstate 5 with Brenda. They were stopped in San Clemente. The court did not allow the jury to hear that the police found $100,000 in the trunk of defendant Aleman's car. In October of 2009, defendant Medrano was pulled over for using a phone while driving. He had no driver's license and identified himself as Rigoberto Gonzalez. When asked his date of birth, Medrano looked confused and had to make a phone call to find out the answer. The officer inquired what Medrano's true name was, and Medrano replied Mario Hernandez. He was arrested for driving without a license and giving false information to police. During booking, officers discovered that Medrano was wanted in a murder investigation. While in jail, Medrano was recorded telling a cellmate, "I'm a drug dealer, for real, fool." Following a 3-month trial, defendant Aleman and Medrano were convicted of first-degree murder and shooting at an occupied motor vehicle. Aleman was convicted of 2 counts of attempted murder, 3 counts of possession of a firearm by a felon, and assault with a firearm. The court found true that Aleman had 2 prior convictions for assault with a firearm. Aleman was sentenced to a term of 165 years to life, plus a consecutive term of 12 years. Medrano was sentenced to 50 years to life. Jose Macias was 25 years old at the time of death.